Do we like the founder? Do we believe that the company is doing something that we think is interesting and we think can make a difference? Do we think that they can actually do it? And I'm like, if all of those are sort of there, there's a good chance. That's all the math we need to make an investment. And then we're choosing the best of those, right?
Yep.
I want to start this episode with deep appreciation and excitement for
How deep?
Deep.
Is this about new LPs?
Marianas Trench deep appreciation and excitement about new LPs.
Yo,
Yes.
Very exciting. Very exciting this quarter.
We love new investments. We love new LPs. These two in particular, both friends, both brilliant people. Very excited to have them on rolling alongside us. Kevin Espiritu, the gardening god, the plant daddy.
I like him. I've talked to him once. I think you connected us.
You two absolutely must hang out until thing that has to emerge.
He lives in San Diego, and San Diego's just not on the way to anywhere.
Neither is Hamilton, Missouri.
You don't know that.
It's on the way to everywhere. What do you mean? You can't get anywhere without going over Hamilton, Missouri.
No, but I will drive to Kansas City in a heartbeat, and that is on the way to a number of places.
That is, you and Kevin got to get together and make the baby that is the garden city.
Listen, I'm on top. That's all I'm saying.
The Garden City, I'm afraid that's already taken by New Jersey, unfortunately.
How the fuck did they get that name, by the way? There's not one plant in the whole state of New Jersey.
I'm positive Kevin has opinions on that.
No, no, he's awesome. And it's funny because I think he took money from he raised some money and did a whole, he's blowing up his business right now and doing a great job. And I was friends with the same people that he took money from. And so had these very similar arcs and experiences. Both came from YouTube into e-commerce and stuff. Love what he's doing over there. And honestly, a very good Twitter follow, even if you're not into plants.
He's great. His Twitter is all about his business lessons and stuff. He's got a YouTube channel about it now. He's kind of hired himself out of an super heavy executive role at Big Gardening. And they're doing some amazing acquisitions.
Move, dude. Put the founder back into being the genius instead of being the guy that sends emails. Great.
And he just keeps building the business. He's doing some awesome acquisitions. He's thinking really long. I've done a few podcast episodes with him.
We like Kevin.
We love Kevin. We love Kevin.
Welcome to the fold, my boy.
And his note to us when we joined the podcast.
So great. I'm just a farmer. I don't know.
I'm a simple
hilarious.
farmer. I have no deep tech connections. I'm rolling my potato profits into deep tech investments.
Very cute. I like that a lot.
This is American dynamism.
Great vibe.
Farmers use deep tech.
He should come to my 250 acres and farm here. I don't know. I've got land I don't know what to do with.
Dude, that would actually be a really cool series, is him kind of giving you ideas.
We literally rolled up to Al's house today and he was digging up all of his raspberries. He clearly needs help. He needs help.
No, I got the back 40. I got the back 40 coming out of CRP next year. He could do the full recover the land, turn it into a productive farm.
Can you break that sentence down for people that don't own hundreds of acres?
Oh yeah,
of land?
So CRP, this is when the government pays you not to farm, and it's a nice program that everybody's got some land they don't want to do anything with. It's trash land. They put it into CRP and don't touch it for 10 years, and you get a check from the government every year.
Because it's good for native species.
This is why we pay taxes. No. It's to suppress the pricing on farm stuff. So if everybody's growing wheat, then the price goes too low. So they pay you to stay out of producing crops.
We planted some local pollinators for bees and birds and butterflies and stuff, but that's a different program.
I did that on my other 120 acres. Yes.
Yeah.
Also a pollinator program. It was a great move. And they pay you a lot of money to do that. Yeah. But the CRP is tons of people do it, and it's literally just to control the price on agriculture stuff, which is the dumbest use of taxes I think anybody ever came up with. So anyway, you do it 10 years, you're not farming this stuff, trees come out. You're supposed to maintain it, but nobody does.
Yeah. Then you have to clear the land.
I got to do a prescribed burn again on this one. It's another field coming up for a burn.
Exciting.
It is good. It is a nice time. But Kevin can come out and he'd be like, all right, we're gonna burn this off. This plot's going to be, we're going to plant some stuff here, turn this into trees. Like, I would love that.
That'd be really cool.
All right, come to a YouTube series.
And you've got a town that can get turned into garden.
I got a great town for garden town. Man,
an epic
I got
gardening
so
town.
much to give you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Deep appreciation.
deep trenches of appreciation. So yeah, Kevin's got to come out. It'd be a great do the podcast together and it'd be very fun. If you want a background on Kevin, go listen to the podcast I did with him. The other, our new Kingpin LP, the brilliant, dynamic, and hilarious Jim O'Shaughnessy Ventures.
Really
Was that
good.
your trench? Was that your trench of appreciation?
Really, really awesome to have him.
He's
as an LP. Like, it's super great.
He's awesome, incredibly aligned. I love the stuff that OSV
I mean,
is
nice
doing.
guy, but also it just makes us feel good.
It does make us feel good. Yeah,
We're smart. Gosh dang it, we have good ideas.
Maybe we are if Jim says we are. I don't know. But he loves
You're
like
social proofing yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
hate it or love it. The game must be played.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, like he does some great deep tech investments. He also like writes. We feel interesting niche for him, I think, which we can for other family offices, which is like we are willing, able, and eager to do checks below the size that makes sense for a lot of family offices to do directly. A lot of them are like, hey, it just doesn't make sense for us to do a check less than $1 million or $500,000. And most of what we're doing is, 50 to 100, maybe a little bigger. And so for people who are like, yeah, give us $1 million a year. And like, we will be that early cutting edge. We'll write those small checks. We'll handle those founders getting off the ground. And then if you're paying attention to what we're doing and we're communicating often, maybe you'll get like a lead or a large chunk of their coming fundraise, and we can help you kind of build that conviction over the course of years.
What's funny, we have a couple LPs that are like our family, connected to family offices and funds and stuff, and they're immediately the ones that we want to help succeed. It's like, hey, we got to deal like they're raising again. Like, you got to talk to these guys because we feel so much appreciation for them that we immediately want to go and make sure we're doing right by them. So
yeah, I think it's part of the reason that this is fun for us. Also, like, we don't have to get. We're not doing this for a paycheck. We're doing this because it's like fun to talk to these folks and work together. Yeah. But like, for everyone who does this with like a grown-up fund, they have like hurdle rates that like with paid employees, and it's if they can't do big enough things, the business doesn't work. And for us, it's like, let's get a lot of exposure to great founders, great technology. And so like, if great things are going to come out of that, but like, we're not trying to do this for a paycheck, which is a thing that doesn't make sense for family offices. It doesn't make sense for venture funds. But the things that come out of the other end of this will make a lot of sense for them, I think. And so like, it is a fun place for us to be. Really fun.
It's a fun place. I think it's a place of great returns. It's a place where the normal kind of laws of physics of like $50 to $200 million venture funds don't always make sense or can't. And it's really fun. It's a thing we were doing anyway, so we might as well do it better and slightly larger and more than we could before. There's two classes of people that like get our first warm intros when we feel like we have a really exciting deal, which is like first and foremost our LPs, and secondarily or in parallel, like really, really amazing funds that we work with a lot, that we feel like are high credibility leads, a little bit like we were talking about last episode of like, they're great to work with. They write big checks. They run real processes. They do it often enough to be reliable and treat founders well.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Should we do the portfolio update for Q1?
Oh yeah, we got updates.
We got updates.
We got updates.
Dirac, Reactiv, and Longshot in that order.
That should be a rap album. Dirac.
Dirac is Phil Aronstein. Went and meet this dude in New York. He's an amazing Twitter follow also. That's kind of how we got to know each other. I just saw the first video that they did with Christian Kyle, who does First Principles, like amazing follow, and sent us some amazing deals. Really good dude. And just started DMing Phil. I was like, this is really cool. He sent me some demos. Liked it. We talked. After I met him in New York, I was like, oh shit, this is like the momentum, the team. They're all brilliant. They're like, it's such a classic startup office.
Yeah, is that what you?
I have like a
the hair, crush. The team.
He's got like a sick undercut. Yeah, there's like you go into the office. There's like stimulants everywhere.
Oh my god!
It's like he
was wearing a top hat.
He's putting pre-workout in his coffee. Like no one has slept in like months.
Yes.
You're like, yes, this is America. Like these guys are gonna win.
This is America.
This is awesome. They're I mean, really interesting, super, super sharp founders. Like the two co-founders, I remember they met in high school or college, but they were like doing mathletes together, stayed close through college, went to work at some big like aviation company,
Boeing,
probably, or similar. Maybe
JetBlue,
can't remember, but like
Southwest,
just kept
SkyWest, regional charters,
NetJets.
Are any of these ringing a bell?
And so they got familiar with both the like hardware manufacturing process and they were writing code in those companies, and just saw this shit show of work assembly instructions. So they see this opportunity. So there's been a few recent developments in like software engines, the physics
for the layman. Work assembly instructions.
Okay, so you take a CAD, like a manufacturing engineer designs a product in CAD.
Go on.
Big fancy software for designing stuff. Then they like have to translate that CAD program into a set of instructions for actually like the technicians in the factory to assemble the thing.
Yeah, because you can't build off of a CAD file isn't an image. It's like the layers and layers.
It's the layers and layers, and it's static. And so what they do is like someone goes screen by screen through that CAD file, layers on layers, like Photoshop layers, and screenshots and writes instructions in like basically a giant ass PowerPoint.
It's like writing your documentation for your code, but for CAD. Is that what's happening?
But you're writing the program, quote unquote, that the technicians in the factory are supposed to follow. So they're like, step 1, do the thing. Here's a screenshot. Here's instructions. Flip the page. Step 2, put this bolt in. Tighten this nut to this spec. Like,
on average, what, about 200 to 300 pages for these?
That's what he said. This is not my native waters, but like slow process to create it. Error prone, like doesn't have a feedback loop between the technicians actually doing the work. Maybe they're writing on the things, but that never makes it back to the engineers. So what he's doing is there are new physics engines in software that enable us to do really smart things with those CAD files. Plus, there's some really rad AI stuff that helps us write the instructions automatically. So let's build a software program that takes in that CAD file, automatically generates these work assembly instructions through AI, through these physics engines, and then gives the technicians actually doing the work the layer to sort of give the feedback to, like, this is dumb, this doesn't work, this spec breaks this part, like too much torque, too little torque, can't get the wrench in there, whatever. And so this feedback loop sort of takes place, and like this is, on the one hand, you can be like, why has this not been built yet? Because it's a huge problem. It affects so many people, but it only individual like manufacturing facilities. And
it's funny that
there's software enabled.
There's not like a tech documentation company that does this exclusively already. Everybody just sort of does it as a side.
But if you believe LLMs and these like physics engines were the things that unlock this opportunity, and that whoever gets there like fastest and highest credibility gets there, and they're flying. They have a sales pipeline of it.
Why would a manufacturing company want to keep this in house? There's no value for them to do a crappy job and still keep people on staff to do it if they can like just farm it out.
So it's similar to sort of the Stell Engineering investment that we did, like incredible software for enabling speed and precision of manufacturing, which I think is like, it is a huge, huge market, underappreciated. There's tons of software people out there that would never know this opportunity existed unless you came out of that specific thing and had the entrepreneurial zeal to go after it. And Phil is like super dynamic, like amazing pitch, man. He put together an amazing funding like round and set of people who are involved in this thing.
That's fun. That's cool.
Yeah, like really sharp, moving fast. They just moved their headquarters to the Gundo. So I think this is
where's that?
The El Segundo, California.
El Segundo.
Gundo.
Yep.
Which is a very exciting like scene. Like that might end up being like a little like hot pocket of like Renaissance talent that's coming out of there. So yeah,
El Segundo, really is that the EAC headquarters? Is that what's happening?
Basically, yeah. Like this is all these dudes with giant American flags, and like squat racks.
A lot of people say Hamilton is the El Segundo of the Midwest.
Yeah, they do.
Everybody says that.
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that also.
Making that happen
makes sense.
Yeah, so that's Dirac. We're pre-seed in that. I think they're gonna have a very bright future.
Yep.
Phil's a great dude. Him and Ethan at Oros are buds too. Just
figures they'd know each other.
Yeah.
Future builders.
Well,
let me tell you about Reactiv.
Please.
So this is our boy Ross. up in Canada. Smart
Okay.
guys. So Ross, we've been working with Ross for a couple of months now, trying to help him pull the round together and get everything going. It's funny. This is more my world. I think the e-commerce, mobile app stuff.
This one was definitely Al coming to me and Bo and being like,
I got a great guy.
This is my one. This is Ecomm. This is my shot.
Yep.
Like my wheelhouse.
Let me
okay.
do them. So the thing that I think that we see that other people don't is mainly there is some value in mobile apps for e-com businesses, right? So you have your standard ones like a TapCart or something, and TapCart does like a basic off the mill template for an e-com place. So if you're buying crap in China and reselling it in America, TapCart's going to do great.
Like Squarespace for mobile apps.
Yep. It plugs into Shopify and gives you an app, and you did it. Awesome. I don't think that there's any utility in that. I think people that are using that are making a big mistake, and you're wasting your money, because why does anybody care? But the reason they use it is because essentially you're getting free push notifications to a user. And so if you have people that are going to download that app, they're just saving you money on texts and emails. And great. The value in an app is, as my company just went through, and a bunch of other companies that I work with that, like guys will call me for advice and stuff. The theory that we've sort of settled on is if you have loyal customers, if you have people that you're invested in building a good experience with, you would use an app along with a number of other things, mainly to build like customer appreciation software, right? You're building ways of building experiences for these people. And so any brand that has loyalty like that has a need for something more native, and most of the time it's going to act as their loyalty program, right? That's how this stuff should end up. And so like what Reactiv does that we think is great is they make the process of they're the platform that takes your Shopify store and turns it into a mobile app platform that you can build on top of. So you don't need to go and you don't need to be a mobile dev shop to spin up an experience in there. It's your normal dev team that they built the thing for the web, and it will also work now on mobile, or they can build custom experiences for mobile in normal React JavaScript, which is great. And they also use AI to automate a bunch of that. So they'll do get you 90% of the way there, and then you finish it out. Super smart team, great salespeople, very well connected. They've done this before, sort of stuff. The opportunities that they're seeing, they have like, I don't know, 40 or 50 customers already signed LOIs. A number of those customers already writing checks into this round because they're just like, they want it to exist. I have this big philosophy in the app space. Why are you smiling at me? I have this big philosophy in the app space that like there needs to be an enterprise version of the Shopify ecosystem, and that is nobody's building that yet. And so when we see apps and founders that are staring at that space, same as we are, it's easy to get excited about what they're doing and the opportunity that's coming that way.
What's that mean? Enterprise version of the Shopify ecosystem?
Yeah. So like right now we use, we're a big store. The quote company is a big store on Shopify.
And for context, like if
like 100 million plus,
this is a big business.
Yeah. So like when we signed up, gosh, I don't know, 3 years ago to move on to Shopify, because what I realized in e-commerce is you're sort of building 4 pages over and over again. It's homepage, product page, browse page, and checkout. That's e-commerce. And so we had been spinning our own version. Then we were like playing all this ball with Magento and all this other crap. And it's like, no, all right, we're going to give all that to Shopify, and my 8-man dev team is just going to build experiences on top of Shopify. Well, so then you go into the ecosystem because you're like, oh, there's all these great apps in there, and you download a review app. So I've got a reviews app that we're paying a couple $1,000 a month to have reviews.
Wow.
And what you would want, because we have a lot of reviews, and what you'd want is to be able to build any experience you want off of the back of that. So really, what I need is somebody that says, hey, here's a reviews database, and I put an API layer on top and made it easy for you to integrate this into anywhere you want on your shop. Instead, what you have is people that build for like $500,000 a year stores that are like, click this button to put that widget in there. And so getting real access to an API or even a database structure that's thought ahead to like, oh, well, I should let you show reviews by a user or something, right? So when I talk about enterprise versions, it's like the grown-up versions of these little baby apps that Shopify is run by these baby apps, and built, just looking like what's great out there, and then building the grown-up version of that is a big opportunity.
Yeah.
So
you worked with Ross for a few years.
No, worked with Ross for a year at his previous company.
Oh, okay.
Doing the mobile app stuff, and he's a standout guy over there. And then he left to start his own thing, and I was one of the guys that he called just to be like, "How does this work? What does this look like?" And I was like, "Well, what are you doing?" And as it came together, there was enough meat on the bone that we felt comfortable. Well, because we see a lot of deals that are just like buddies that are doing cool stuff, and like we can back them personally. That's why we have a $26,000 minimum, so that I can write a $25K check into a friend and have it be no big deal. But we thought there was enough meat on the bone for this guy to say, look, we see 100x here. We see some very, very good visibility into the gaps and why this isn't being done already. And we think we can make a difference in getting it done. And so then worked with him a couple of months, tried to help him pull the round together and all that stuff. And he's great. It's awesome. It's been fun to see it come together. As soon as it did come together, then it's like, now we're competing for space in here, but no, it was ale. But no, I mean, it's fun. I'm a big fan of it. I'm a big fan of people that are building in this space and doing big swings for that larger scale client.
I couldn't believe, like, the first reaction through the deck or through the pitch is kind of like, wait, you're doing something inside the Shopify ecosystem? Like, there's no way that's a big enough TAM, like, addressable market. And I was like, check the math. It's like, please do it.
Yeah. Well, that's always my level of comfort. It's like, dude, it's big. And like, it's getting to the point where there's almost no reason to not, if you're an e-com brand, to not be on Shopify. Wow. Like Magento sucks, like all the alternatives are big commerce. Who's going to go and build their, Staples isn't going to move their site onto big commerce. And so like the people that are going to get the big brands is going to continue to be Shopify, and there's going to continue to be big opportunity to build inside of there. Give the homepage, browse page, product page, and checkout to somebody that's going to do this all day, and it's not going to break when Black Friday traffic hits and all that stuff, and then go build great experiences on top of it.
I like this as another example of the kind of like hyper precise, already in the market people who are empowered to build a new kind of company by AI, right?
Yeah.
Like on the one hand, this is an AI company. On the other hand, like it's an e-commerce
It's
tool.
funny because we talked internally. It's like we're kind of aligning more to like, can we put stuff in space? Can we launch this to Mars? Can we build a nuclear reactor in our trunk? And to have a mobile app software company show up, the criteria for us still is like we're industry agnostic. We really like big swings, and we think this is a big enough swing in here that we felt comfortable jumping in there. But kind of a detour from our normal our normal areas that we're finding.
Well, it's a really interesting, like, we are still always making the best capital allocation decision we can with the information we have at any given moment.
Yep.
Like within rough parameters, but like, how do we develop conviction and where does it come from in each individual idea? Like sometimes, like the one we're about to talk about next, it is like, that is a deep tech, super high, like super unique vision, super singular kind of company with brilliant founders. But sometimes it's like, comes from you knowing this space better than anybody maybe in the world, knowing that you're a customer of this. Like, you are investing in it. We're investing in it through Rolling Going. Your company is investing. Yeah. Missouri Star is writing a check directly. Like, this problem space, and you can be like a kingmaker of this company by all the people that you know and the conferences you go to, and like being an e-com leader.
Like really our unfair advantage in a lot of this stuff is our people that we know. And like, we don't want our buddies to not call us if they're not putting something on the moon, right? It's no, still call us. Like, what are you got a new candy bar you're making? Like, maybe that's interesting. If you can talk us into
if you're Mr. Beast.
And we love the market and we love the founder. Like, we'll follow any of that anywhere. We deliberately didn't put any constraints on ourselves, but yeah, it's fun. It's fun to get the phone calls. I mean, that's some of the best part of doing any of this is the randomness of the day. I'm like, I'm building a house with a drone. Okay. I haven't thought about that ever. Let's look at that one. How's he doing?
Yeah. And the other category I think is conviction of the people. Like sometimes we've known people for 20 years. We've watched them build 2 or 3 companies. We're like, whatever that person decides to do.
I mean,
I have a lot of data.
Internally, our best filter is like, can it 100x? And if it can't, that needs to be a personal check. And if it can, that can be a rolling fund check, right?
Yeah.
Which has been really, I mean, it's a great filter for us to stare at and say, do we believe that this can go?
I think that's the midway curve, right? Yeah. Is like the dummy and the Jedi are both like, can it 100x? Is it going to end up really big? And everything in the middle is like allocation percentage, fund minimum, like round size, valuation, entry price. Like, do it get big?
Yeah, right.
Dude, I love this next one though, man.
Dude,
tell the story of this guy.
Longshot. I love a pun. Like, as soon as I grokked what this company did and the name, I was like, I'm in. Like, these are my kind of guys. This is amazing. I'm going to start this time with a shout out to Mo Mahmood for introducing me to the founder, Mike Grace. He definitely like pegged me right with this one.
Go Mo.
It was a little crazy. So the concept is build the world's biggest potato gun, basically. It is like the ultimate vision is a kilometers long, like maybe a 10-kilometer long vacuum tube that shoots super precise air jets behind a capsule or a vehicle or a payload to get it to like slowly, well, not slowly, but like increase in acceleration over the course of this huge distance until it's at like Mach 10 to 20, which is like 10,000 plus miles an hour, and then go off this giant ramp and scream through the air and get up into space.
So think like 50-gallon barrel drums getting launched into space. Is that
like even bigger? I think. Like
and then
you might be able to sit in a
spaceship
pod
collecting these payloads up there.
So I think there's a ton you can do with it.
Or is that just like an auto unpack satellite that hits?
I think that you can get a lot of stuff up and out this. And I think what's interesting is what really like clicked for me is how this is actually the perfect complement to a mature set of rocket technologies. So I was kind of like, the founder, Mike Grace, is like, this is one of the only ways that we can get stuff up into space cheaper than rockets. Like rockets do it, but they're actually a really gentle ride compared to this.
So like Elon
thing.
Got the price down to what, like $4,000 a kilogram or something like that. And he's like, we cut that down dramatically.
Yeah, these numbers might be out of pocket, but I think Elon is like $1,000 per kilogram payload to space through Starship, maybe at maturity. Like I don't think that's every one. Mike is like, we can do it for also at maturity, can do it for $10 per kilogram payload to space.
I just want to know, can they give me a sun death? Can I get in the barrel and go into the sun in the end? I'll pay for that.
You will not make it 10 feet.
It'll
be 10 feet out of the tube death.
A blob of you could, but it would
no,
be a
put
blob
me in a barrel.
You
can package me up. Like you need some peanuts or something in there. You don't want any airspace.
Packing peanuts.
And then you launch me at Mach 20 into the sun.
We could I don't know if you can solar sail somebody into the sun. Seems tough.
I don't know.
Well, because the sun's pushing the solar out.
Yeah.
I don't
know. You tack and jibe.
How does anybody ever get a sun death in this world?
Propulsion. a lot of liquid oxygen. So they have a.
I'm sorry. I've distracted us again.
No, that's what you're here for. That is a perfect complement to rockets because they can take only low sensitivity payloads that are above a certain weight threshold. So it's got to be 50 or 500 kilograms. It's got to go through this like 1,000 G acceleration process and survive the like high atmosphere drag up into space. But if we're going to do like heavy industry in space, we need a way to get high mass stuff super reliably and super cheaply off the Earth. So this is for like supply drops to the moon, to Mars. This is for getting up the heavy materials to build a Dyson sphere. This is for solar sailing stuff.
Wait, you're trying to build a Dyson sphere, bro?
This is a key enabling technology for Dyson sphere, and that's what we're all doing here. I thought we were on the same page. And it's a cool, like, the margin of error can be much lower than rockets because the whole launch system has to go up and everything. And this is like, you can over-engineer the hell out of this gun because it just a few times a day can just like thump new stuff out into space. So this is just such a cool company. They're like building a giant test thing out in the Tonopah Desert by Area 51. They have a clever sort of process for getting ever closer, like building a business as they develop the technology, because they are doing hypersonic tests for the government. So the Air Force is giving them a bunch of money already to like help them develop this technology to do like Mach 10, Mach 15 tests in these things. And they get a bunch of revenue that way, moving towards this like ultimate vision of like
such a rad
space access. And he's got, this awesome chart in the deck where he's like, there's a 20-year chart where it's like, we are a hypersonic testing business, and then we're a space launch business, and then we're a space services business like Starlink, because we're the only ones who can get stuff up into space that cheaply. I'm like, hell yeah.
He had such a strong close too, where he's like, would you like to come see this 4-kilometer gun? And we're like,
affirmative.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yes, we do. Thank you. We will be right there.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you want to ride in it? Like, only if you're sitting next to me.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, bribes work for us. We will write you a check if you let us come play with your giant 4-kilometer gun.
How big of a potato can we get? We need Kevin Espiritu to grow a like 50-kilogram potato and shoot it through the world's biggest potato gun.
Yes.
Dude, my best hack growing up, we had a pear tree out front. And so like the pears would get so juicy and they'd all fall down. You had like unlimited pears. You put that in the potato gun. I could get it over the 40-acre field. I blew up a number of potato guns in my hands as a child. I have very fond memories of this. Anyway, so I'm saying I should be allowed to snap the igniter.
As an expert in this.
All right. Everybody clear out. Uncle Al's got this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
yeah,
I've got the credentials.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. There's a really like it'll take a minute to get to the giant fancy version, but it's definitely like it. As far as like obsessive geniuses building utopian technologies, like check. The passing the test of like, can this company credibly be the only company on Earth capable of doing blank? Yes.
Yep.
Very cool.
So really, if you invested in Q1, well done. You're geniuses.
Congratulations.
You got into some great companies.
Really one.
Genius.
Fantastic.
And if you didn't invest yet, go die. I'm just kidding. I was trying to think of a mean thing to say, but it's not my native tongue. I still like you. I don't know. Try again next quarter.
The meaner Al tries to be, the cuter he becomes.
You bad guy.
Yeah. So I feel on each quarter, I could probably credibly say this each quarter, but I feel like our bar continues to raise of like what a really good looking company is. And we're now starting to see like the follow-ons of the investments from a year or two ago, which is amazing,
nice.
That is amazing. So good. And I'm like,
just very validating.
When the bar goes up and you're getting good feedback on the stuff we did a year ago, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait.
We're pre-rich.
Yeah, I can't wait.
It's done. We need those shirts, by the way. Pre-rich should be our thing. I just
who's the head of the merch committee around here? I bet some people would buy those too.
Yeah,
which is good because we need the revenue. This is a noble cause we're serving, but it's not particularly profitable.
Actually, I will say you're paying for all of our barbecue dinners, so I'm fine. I feel great.
Locked in. We're locked in.
We don't have a lot.
That's what we're here for.
We don't need much. We're simple.
We're but simple barbecue eaters.
Okay, what are some of the things that we're learning? Would you say we're learning?
Oh, we're definitely learning. I don't know. I thought it might be worthwhile because we've got enough companies now that are going out to raise money to talk a little bit about where we're at on to follow on or not follow on.
Oh yeah.
Which is like really
we just had our first and only follow on.
Yeah, and I think it's like tricky. It created like a lot of conversation amongst us about should we.
Yeah, I loved the idea of having the hard and fast rule of we never follow on, just so I never had to tell one company no and another company yes, well, because the signaling and all that stuff felt like a lot to navigate. But then also because we're investing so early, we have like, hey, we weren't even a company when you put money in. Now we are, and you've seen some validation. Like, would you like to? And as capital allocators, there's an argument for smart. There's very smart opportunities for some of these.
Yeah. And as the fund grows, like sometimes we just get to take even a more correctly sized bite for the total fund structure now that we've got like more capital than we had 2 years ago.
Yeah. I still like we've had a couple of companies. Well, because it's funny because like quarter by quarter it changes. So we've had a few companies that have come back and been like, "Hey, thanks for that $38 you gave me. You really screwed up the math on my cap table. Would you mind?"
It was 26,000, just to be clear.
Would you mind evening this out? And like they always their rounds always come up when we're like, there's 25 other great opportunities that quarter, and we're staring at it. We're just like tortured even to pick our next couple, and you have to say no. And so like really, I feel like the follow on from us came because there's like. We had just enough left in the quarter that it made sense.
Yep.
And also, it's I guess follow on happens when the circus hits just right. And when it doesn't, we write a check in and then we just give you support and love you.
Yeah, I think that it's a thing we're going to keep talking about, and I don't think we have
every company.
We don't have deep religion about it. But what I will say is that like whatever 2 years in, certainly compared to last year, I'm personally like way more confident that we're going to keep having deal flow that grows. And so when the trade off is like with the kind of limited fund size, do you want to be making new investments or do you want to be doubling down on the ones that have shown traction or whatever? We're small enough where like those are real trade-offs right now, but also like gets me kind of excited as we start to bring on new LPs and grow where it's like, ooh, we're going to get to say yes to the best answer every time.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, I don't know. I kind of really feel like in the last few months, I've kind of really landed on like, okay, we're going to be able to do this like extremely well when we're 2 or 3 times our current size. Like we should not, the way that we're doing this is not befit a $20 million fund, but being able to deploy like a couple few million a year, we're going to be able to make the best decisions for how to allocate capital. And so like, makes me think like, hey, like ringing the LP bell is a good idea. Making sure that our current portfolio companies know that like, we're open to follow on, right? Like we're open to follow on, but like we are still at the size that like we have to be really smart.
We're open. Also, don't feel bad if we say no because
it's not a signal as much as it is like us trying to figure out like what is the right size at which we can just like say yes to the ones that are making progress and just double down every time. I mean, it makes funds work much better, frankly, when like you can double down on your winners. It really sucks if you do that all of the time. When you tell someone no, it is a signal, and like we are not in the business of sending that signal. We're just not big enough to get to everything we wish we could get to now.
Yeah, that's right.
We're grading on a curve, a hard curve every quarter based on whatever opportunities we have in front of us.
I mean, wait, three investments last quarter, 3 investments the quarter before. Our investment amounts per deal are actually going up mostly, and actually there's quite a bit of room to even double and triple those. Right, like $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 checks could almost have always been $100,000 or $200,000 or $250,000 checks. So like which white space we want to eat up as we do this is a thing that we're going to just keep working on, and we'll keep you guys posted as we do it. But like more money makes this thing work better, actually.
It's funny. The dynamic of the rolling fund is one that like being in it is different than I thought it would be, of like sort of the quarter deadline, right? Like if you raise a fund, you're trying to look at like, We've got X checks to write this year, the next 2 years, or the next 4 years even, and you're trying to balance that out. And for us, like it moves so quick, man. Like what you see this quarter, and we're committing capital and committing the support quarter by quarter by quarter. Like every 3 months, we get a whole new batch of stuff to try and solve and stare at.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. Like related to the conversation we had in the last episode, which was 1 hour ago, the difference between this type of fund, it really is like. Every quarter, we are actively investing. There's no such thing here as like, oh, hey, we've deployed our capital in the first 18 months. It's a 10-year fund. Everything else we're holding for follow-on while we go to raise our next fund. That's not how it works with a rolling fund. Yeah. Every single quarter, we are looking at the pipeline. We are taking advantage of the best things that are in front of us. And like, boom, if we're not in that quarter, either we pass or we hope we get you on the next time. But like, it is a much more like active pipeline where there is no future in which we're like, oh, sorry, we've deployed all our capital, because the capital is also renewing as we're doing those investments. And so it really is, it makes it a much more active process as opposed to like a we're done, which is I think kind of what we wanted, like a thing to keep working on, not a thing to do and then be done with.
I think from that perspective, it's a really good structure.
It is. I like it a lot.
And it helps us for like, if you have a 1.5 year deployment period, it's really hard to not just kind of sit and be like, maybe I'll get a better opportunity in 9 months.
Yep.
And like miss things that turn out to be great. And so it's not a hard rule that we have to allocate every quarter.
No.
We can roll over with no penalties whatsoever, but it does give us like these kind of slightly artificial but still mentally helpful barriers let's leap.
Our investing window never closes,
right?
But also our ability to raise money never closes, which is why like for everybody who got all of the K1s, right? Like as you're going to pay your taxes this year, it's because this structure enables us to have new investors come in this quarter who get exposure to this stuff this last quarter, but without having exposure to the previous stuff because you were there first.
Yep.
So you got more exposure. And so like the way that this thing works, it actually it creates a lot of K1s, but it also makes it so that it is like a very, very vibrant pipeline.
Yeah.
And that on both ends, on the LP and the company end. And that is like much more interesting than like doing a first fund, not knowing how it goes, waiting around to see for 3 years what happens with your investment. Oh, it actually worked. Now we need to go raise another fund, which is the traditional venture model. They can write really big checks and all that stuff, but they can't just like take new investors all the time.
It's why the content stuff that like you've headed up of like the podcast and all the letters and updates and stuff that are being sent, it matters so much because like we don't have 12 years to wait and see how results are. Like you guys are actively evaluating us on our performance quarter by quarter. And so you're right where there's no penalty for not investing everything. We can roll it over. I also think like if you're an investor and you've committed your capital, there's an expectation that we are going and sourcing the best deals that we can find in that quarter and committing that capital. And so it is also the why, like what you mentioned earlier, like the feedback cycle of like LPs being like, hey, this is great. You guys are keeping us posted. Like we have to, because you don't have to keep investing if you. It's not like we took your money and said, "See ya." Yeah. Like there are plenty of like zombie venture funds out there who raised all the money. You don't hear from them. You don't even really know what's in the portfolio unless you harass them about it. And the dudes are off like surfing or whatever. Yeah. Like this is like an ongoing thing, and it like the onus is on us to be good communicators, to create good content, to keep bringing companies in, and frankly, like. Every time the door opens for a new LP to come in and participate in the most recent quarter, like that door is always open. And so it is a much more living way to do this. And that's a really cool, that's why this is neat.
And I like that, as we mentioned before, like it can be very frustrating as a founder to pitch like investors who keep their door open because they don't want to miss anything, but they don't actually have any capital to allocate. Like that,
and you don't even know, and you have no idea. Yeah. It's totally opaque.
Yeah. But I like this structure.
Name names.
I think this structure, like the cons are definitely like a lot of K1s.
Yep.
But also like get an accountant.
Yeah.
We had like one person be like, dude, what the crap are all these K1s? And now we're very sensitive to how many K1s.
Well, I think it was one of those, like, I was also thinking it. And then like a lot of people think it, but don't ask it. And it actually makes sense when you know that it's a new fund every quarter. And that enables new people to come in every single quarter. And it keeps the engine like, it keeps it living. Yeah. Like that's what it does.
It's a very and because of that, it's very fair. Like if you didn't invest in us for the last 2 years, you didn't get those investments. If you invest starting this quarter, like
then you're in this quarter.
You're in this quarter.
Yep.
And as soon as within 90 days, basically, as soon as we take in your capital, we're deploying it. Like we're not calling capital 2 years ahead.
I mean, if I may, if the K1s bother you, just invest more so it's more meaningful.
That's a very good
point. You do
point,
a 5K a quarter. I mean, what are you doing with that K1? Do 25K a quarter. Now that's a meaty K1.
Then it's worth doing the paperwork.
That's right.
That's a good point. And I like it is also the other pro is that it's flexible. Like when I have many friends who are LPs in the fund, and they call me like, I'm so sorry. I gotta pause my subscription. I'm gonna go start a company, and like I need all my cash. And I'm like, fucking awesome.
Can we invest?
Right? That is exactly like what is beautiful about this structure.
Yeah.
And so, people kind of come and go all the time. And it's like, I think it treats them very equitably. It lets us continue to constantly allocate and be active all the time. It's a very like...
creativity is born of constraint. This has been a fun constraint to have. All right, how do we do the best with this?
And that ties to the like a theme that I've been thinking about of things that we're learning is the timing. Like it helps to force decisions. And when you think about it as a quarter, as a cohesive thing, like we try to blend a little and get a few different opportunities each quarter and take action that quarter. We're seeing, like I had experiences recently on kind of two ends of the spectrum of timing. Like one that was very like one round moved really quickly and the valuation moved quickly. And so like a conversation I had about, you know, a lower valuation in 30, 60, 90 days was like suddenly a very different valuation. And like maybe that changes relatively little about the decision and the thesis and like what will happen eventually. But it's interesting to compare that to something where, you know, in some cases you're able to raise at the same terms or invest at the same terms that you invested in 6 or 12 or 18 months ago, if you were close to the founder and if you know what's coming. And that's some of those like opportunistic follow-ons where you're like, you know, paying, if there has been a lot of progress, paying the same terms that you paid 18 months ago or even 12 months ago, or even technical milestones ago, can turn out to be a really good deal and gets really high RRR, which doesn't really matter until a really long way away. So like,
yeah, I think it also really makes the conversation real that we have a lot of right. We don't invest less than 26,000. That's an annoying amount of money. I don't think we've invested more than a couple of $100,000 in anything, but it's also like we have opportunities in every one of these to like invest more money, or to make an additional investment or two additional investments. And that's its own kind of force curve where when we look around the table at each other, it's like, guys, would we rather be 100 in here or would we rather be in 50 here and here? It starts to like make you really be like, I like that one, but I love this one. So like, let's load up when we think we see really big opportunities.
Well, it's funny. I think we have a preference to more exposure across more companies, right? And so like if we have 120 left, you know, it's like, oh, that's 50 and 70. But like for us, we probably look at that and say that's 430s. Right. You know, like we especially if there's enough volume, like we have a preference to many bets as opposed to we got the one, and mainly that's because I mean we are so early and we're playing so far ahead that if we're open to some follow on, then this is a great move because we're big early supporters. We're gonna help and we're gonna watch and then like our big bets can come later. We're not worried about that.
Yeah, I like the counter. It's not counterintuitive, but it is counter to the like common narrative of venture, which is like I feel like there's a lot of funds pitching like fewer bigger bets, minimum allocation, like minimum ownership percentage, and like
because they're optimizing for workload at that point, right? Like they're optimizing for their own workload with those kind of decisions.
Their board seats, their oversight, and maybe at Series A that makes a ton of sense, but like the portfolio math of like early stage, like true pre-seed is like you really want to throw a lot of darts. Like you want to be sure that you have some money in the very extreme left power law, and part of that is a high bar and good deal flow and like being useful and getting that allocation. But another part is just like throwing a lot of good darts.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable. Like the hubris of VC is like, oh no, I have read every book and I have interviewed thousands of founders and this is the one.
Yeah.
And like, it's actually much harder to do that than to throw 20 darts and like get some money into.
I don't know that any of
stage.
us would ever enjoy, you know, what you were talking about before. If you lead around, you have all the extra paperwork that goes along with it. And the extra, like you have to have that conviction and know that you're right because you're putting millions of dollars behind it. And for us, it's like, man, I like three or four things about this guy, the company. Like it's sort of feeling like it might come together. We should take a serious look at it.
Yeah.
And that's way more fun for us than I think we'd all kind of be miserable if we had to sit in a chair and make 3 bets in a year and we had to be right most of the time. It's like it's not
not our game.
Yeah, it's not a hard game.
Different people play different games, and this one is ours.
Yep. I think that's right.
Hats off to you guys that can do those big ones, and you like let your conviction build and that stuff. But like for us, we get to see, is it a great opportunity? Do we believe the guys can actually make it work? It was funny. I went on a venture capital podcast a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't realize that it was a venture capital podcast. I thought I was just hanging out with some buddies. They're like, tell us about your fund. What's the thesis? What's the strategy? And I was like, all right, well, great questions. First, I should know the answers to these really quick. But second, all like the way that I describe ourselves, I'm like, we have a ton of fun because we're doing stuff that we genuinely like. And what we're looking for is like, we don't need everything to be there. We're looking for like, do we like the guy? or girl? Do we like the founder? Do we believe that the company is doing something that we think is interesting and we think can make a difference? Do we think that they can actually do it? And I'm like, if all of those are sort of there's a good chance. That's all the math we need to make an investment. And then we're choosing the best of those, right? Yep. But we're not in data rooms. We're not in nerdy spreadsheets. We don't need your pro forma and all that stuff. We're earlier than that. We're having more fun, I think, than the other guys are because of that.
That was actually a big debate on the Twitters this week. This woman posted like, actually, I kind of think financial models are helpful at pre-seed. Like everybody in the world, quote tweeter, was like, "This is ridiculous." Yeah. And I'm like, can we not have a nuance? Like,
yeah.
For some businesses, it probably makes a ton of sense, but like, should it be a requirement for all of them? Like, no, like Longshot doesn't need a.
No,
does not.
Well, it's funny. We're like Reactiv actually did need the pro forma models. Sure, we needed to see exactly how much they're charging and how much they're making. Like all that's because they were dealing in that world where like Longshot is like, we think we can get it to space. We're like, let us know if you do.
Yeah. I think it's there's a lot of different things being called venture. A lot of different types of investing being called venture these days.
Guys, that's so true.
So true. So wise. Speaking of smart ladies, our very first like actual specific deliberate intra round markup happened in Q1, which is Stell Engineering.
What they end up raising?
We invested pre-seed and they just raised their seed very quickly. Actually, like I got some emails for reference checks, and by the time I had responded to them, they're like, never mind, they already signed a term sheet with somebody else. I was like, oh, all right, cool. There's a TechCrunch article about it with all the numbers that are public, I think, but like raised a decent sized seed round.
They're going to grow
like crazy.
They're going to kill it. Everybody that's looked into that company is just like, whoa.
No, they execute.
They execute. The team is amazing. Their updates are they're like great. They're super customer development driven software that's iterating quickly, like in a unique market.
Well, it's funny that they built in such a smart way because they were optimizing for that product market fit by like they had their pilot programs running with like almost nothing, which speaks to the demand. Like these companies were like, you have anything, great, we'll use it. Yeah. And then they got to build around customers so quickly. Like they did it such a brilliant way.
Yeah. They're also, Mallory and Ann are both super, I mean, they met as co-presidents of the aerospace thing.
I kind of, every LinkedIn, I'm like, happy investor, very small. I like you guys. Yeah. Way to go. It's such a weird, like all of it, because we're in like 20 some companies now. And so there's all these updates. And I feel we're caveating everything with like, I saw in them what nobody else could see a little bit. And we were right. So
it is an unfortunate sort of reality of this game that you have to be like just slightly public about your achievements in order to spin the flywheel of like credibility and awareness. And it's why every investor is so goddamn annoying on Twitter, probably myself included.
I suck at that part.
Bro, what if we got
but that's why everybody
what if we get hit by VC brags? What if that was us?
It's a good dude, actually. I know who's behind it.
Yeah,
I pay him hush money to not make fun of me on Twitter.
He's your Stormy Daniels. Who among us doesn't have a Stormy Daniels?
All right, I'm going to stop recording before we find out too much about Al on tape. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.